Hello and welcome to this webinar entitled Incoterms 2020, the key provisions you need to know about, with me, Keith Markham. As always, let's begin by having a look at the agenda. We've got a lot to talk about today in this session. So we're going to talk initially about an overview. So first of all, we're going to talk about what the Incoterms actually are, where they come from. Then we're going to talk about how we might actually use them, how we might incorporate them, what do they cover, what do they not cover, what's the relationship between the Incoterms and a sort of contract for sale. And also we'll then go on to talk about the different types of Incoterms. So quite a lot to get our teeth into there before we then, after that, we'll look at the actual obligations of the seller and the buyer. And we will see that effectively there are a variety of obligations on both parties. Essentially, they're divided into the A obligations for the seller and the B obligations for the buyer. And there are 10 areas. And what it does effectively, the rules, in terms of the topics it covers, it divides obligations between the two parties in the ways that we are going to see in some detail. Now, that will take us most of the session, in fact, but we'll then get on to sort of key amendments that were made in 2020, because as we're going to see, these particular Incoterms are sort of updated every 10 years or so, and there were some important amendments that are worth noting about. We'll then look at variations, because although we're going to go through the sort of the formal text of some of this, what you'll find is that often there may be one or two things that are added to or words to qualify the Incoterms, and we'll see what the usual examples of those are and what that means, and discuss whether you want to use some of those things. Then we'll talk towards the end about dispute resolution. We're going to see that there are possibilities in terms of Incoterm dispute resolution, albeit these terms can also be interpreted using sort of the courts of England and Wales and the law of England and Wales, or indeed in other jurisdictions as well. And finally, we'll look at one or two practical steps to take in terms of deciding which Incoterm is most appropriate for you, or indeed the client that you are advising. So a wide range of issues to discuss. Let's straight away get into the overview. So before I start to talk about some of the things on this slide, let's just have a little bit of background. So Incoterms stands for International Commercial Terms. They are produced by the International Chamber of Commerce with the intention of facilitating sort of international trade. And rather than having lots of different sort of sets of T's and C's in lots of different languages, and that leading to all sorts of uncertainty and arguments and potential delay, essentially the purpose of the Incoterms is to have one sort of standard, or a series of options, but standard terms and conditions translated into a variety of languages, so that it gives people certainty that allows them to trade internationally in a better and more effective way. So that's where they come from. They actually were first created in 1936, the Incoterms, and what you'll find is that typically every 10 years or so, they are updated. So at the minute, we're kind of halfway through the cycle of the 2020 terms. There will be an updated version, no doubt, in 2030. Obviously, the previous version was 2010.